vaping is something that we haven't talked a lot about, but we've had a lot of experience with it in Utah, and thanks for just really good people that took on this issue. And the thing that I want you to remember about what's so important to this, if they're vaping, it's just so easy to move to marijuana for the kids. This is all about the kids. And so if they're all, if they're vaping, they're already doing something that's illegal. They don't think about the fact that might as well vape marijuana, and that's exactly what we've seen happen. The vaping industry has a kids manual, and that menu is flavored vapes. They're candy flavored and fruity flavored, and that's what 90% of the children that vape is flavors, and that's what got them vaping in the first place, is the flavors. So, stop teen vaping. Say no to nicotine addiction. The problem is that flavored vapes have fueled an epidemic of youth nicotine addiction. Currently, 18,000 Utah students, grades 6 through 12, are vaping, and we're a small state. Flavored vapes, a gateway to addiction. Nicotine is so addicting. E-cigarettes pose serious health risks to young people, including nicotine addiction that alters the brain development, increased risk of smoking cigarettes and using harmful substance, and lung damage and long-term respiratory issues. Adolescents the flavored vapes are much more likely to use cannabis and to do binge drinking. Teens who use e-cigarettes appear more likely to engage in risky sexual behavior. Nicotine poses unique dangers to youth because their brains are still developing. There's a Utah teen who said that she will never touch a vape again after nearly dying of severe lung illness. Maddie was a healthy 18-year-old girl who said she had vaped every day for 3 years. And she said everybody in her school was vaping. And that's true, that the numbers are unbelievable. Maddie mysteriously fell ill and ended up in the hospital in a medically induced coma. The doctor said it was definitely from vaping. She said my temperature was so high my brain just completely shut off. I had fat particles growing inside my lungs that were related to the glycerin in vape juices. And well, actually, the last part is that the doctor explained to Maddie, when you inhale the moisture, it just creates a perfect environment for bacteria to grow inside of your lungs and for infections to start. The solution to combat this was SB 61 in Utah, the Senate bill, was signed into law last year, banning flavors and requiring FDA approval for e-cigarette products. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about this bill. This is the sponsor of our bill last year that passed that prohibits the sale of electronic cigarette products that have not received market authorization, codified a nicotine limit for electronic cigarettes, prohibit the sale of flavored electronic cigarette products, and create registry for electronic cigarette products. And I'm sorry. Timer, so you'll have to tell me. Okay. This was an unusual thing, but we found out there were other states that did. They would just ban this bill, her bill, banned electronic cigarettes if they had flavors in them. And there was a lot of complaints about that, but it's because of the children. It's all about the children. And so if all the states would start doing that, that's why I want to share this message today, so that other people will think about banning flavors in their state. And interestingly enough, California already has done it.
And she's a Democrat.
Yeah, I was gonna explain that, yeah. Let me tell you a little bit about Senator Jen Plum. She's a Democrat senator. We don't have very many Democrats in Utah, especially in the Senate. So it helped to get the extra votes we needed to pass SB 61. But she also is a pediatrician, and she loves children. So all of a sudden, it didn't matter that she was a Democrat. Sorry, I'm kind of, I only do this with one hand. And so, what SB 61 does, right? Only FDA-approved products are allowed. It bans the flavored vapes. It capped it at 4% percent for nicotine. And the state DHHS approval and register. The FDA has only authorized 34 tobacco and menthol cigarette products, and any other flavored vapes are illegal. So, we were excited to get that bill passed. It wasn't easy. It was a lot of hard work, and we worked really hard. We got leadership on board, and frankly, we're surprised. It's right down to the last minute we had problems. I mean, the last week of the session, we were still fighting to get this bill passed. But through a lot of hard work, we were able to get that done. SB 61 was a bipartisan win for Utah youth, but instead of complying, the Utah Vaping Association refused to stop selling. It just acted like the law wasn't passed. And ignored legislative intent. And then they filed a lawsuit to overturn 61. Protect Utah kids, that became our battle cry, because when we found out what was going on, because the industry just started working on everything they could to try to stop this. The industry they had put signs and petitions in their stores and donated money to candidates. I found that out, and I was shocked about the money being donated by the industry. They told the legislators that they were going to have to close their businesses if they couldn't sell flavored vapes, which is right there, very killing. If they're selling so many flavored vapes, that they was keeping them in business, and we know that the children are the ones that are buying them, or somebody's buying for them. That was a wake-up call. And but they actually went out and convinced leadership to support their bill. They got a sponsor for that bill, and so that was HB 432. So as you think about these numbers, so that just the difference in them. SB, the Senate Bill 61, was to ban flavors, and HB 432 was to repeal what we had done the year before. HB 432 was a dangerous step back. It legalized unlawful products. It raised the nicotine limit from 4% to 5%. It eliminated safety oversight and encouraged youth vaping. The real cost of HB 432, more kids addicted, fewer safety checks, and easy access to unlawful vapes. Why does this matter? HB 432 put Utah in violation of federal law by allowing the FDA products that the FDA bans. And HB 432 increased penalties for youth possession, yet made it illegal. Made it illegal products easier for the children to access. So what did we do? We started this campaign. It was so hard. In fact, it almost seemed impossible, because everybody we were talking to had changed their mind. They were going to vote to repeal 61. It just had, we went away for the summer, came back to the legislative session, and we had such a big problem there. So we started out, one of the things we did was this flyer that we sent to all of our Eagle Forum list, which is thousands of people. And then we went to other organizations, got them involved, and asked them to send it out. And once again, people don't think about vaping as being a problem, because when vaping started to become a big thing, they were saying, this is how you quit smoking. You know, you can vape, and that might be true because vaping, it was replacing smoking. And it's so dangerous. So it was just a gimmick that they did that. So we asked people to text and email their legislators. We said in the subject line, put vote no on HB 432 and spread the word. And that started to help. I mean, we were just up there lobbying one-on-one, but we had to get a lot of people involved. It helped. It didn't change things. So that was the first place we started. So another thing we did, this is probably the most effective thing that we did, is explain how much nicotine is in the vape. People don't know that, and the legislators didn't know that. That was a shock. So how did we do that? Well, see this? We carried this around in our pocket. Everybody was talking about the fact that I was drinking some, big vapes in my pocket. But I would pull this out as long, and others that worked on this so hard, and show them this little cartridge, and tell them that this little cartridge contained the same amount of nicotine as 2 packs of cigarettes. But it's how they use it. The kids put this in their pocket just like I did. And everybody knows they go in the restrooms at the schools, and the kids all talk about that. They can even, hide it in the classroom, on the playground, and of course in their bedrooms at home. Parents don't have any idea. And so in one day, they go through this whole vape cartridge, and that's 2 packs of cigarettes with nicotine. It's just horrendous that these little kids were using. But it affected, so amazingly, it affected the legislators. I mean, we started to see people change drastically. They were just like, what? They want to hold it, look at it. Because when kids are smoking, people are smoking, they know how much they're getting. They know they just smoked a cigarette, and another cigarette, and another cigarette. But they don't want their parents to know. They don't want it to smell. They don't want the school to know. So they put this in their pocket. And they're not even interested in smoking anymore. I mean, this is full of tutti frutti and cotton candy and all the different names that they have. So that really helped. And that's why I want to share this today. That sometimes you have to find the visuals. You have to find, well, it wasn't a handout because I wouldn't let them have it. They asked for it though. So. The next thing that we did was we had a brand new legislator. This was her first year. She wasn't brand new to the Capitol because she's up there all the time because she has an organization for, about health. And in fact, she's been to DC a couple of times to do press conferences with Robert Kennedy. He came to our state right after some of the bills that she got signed. So she said to us, Delaney spent time talking with her, and she said, okay, what do you want me to do? What do you want to do? So she said that she would do a substitute bill. So let me explain a little bit about substitute bills. I don't know how you do it in your state, but anybody can have a substitute bill on somebody else's bill. You can just, and they can sometimes, when by the time they actually voted on this, it was the 4th substitute, but you can see up to 7 substitutes at times. So she had a substitute bill, and what she did is put in the bill, notwithstanding any other provision of law, a retail tobacco specialty business may not sell a flavored electronic cigarette product. And that passed. That was shocking. And that's another reason I said that I think the 2 main things was showing her this and her idea of that. So she took the sponsor's bill, added that information, and suddenly, and then up on the board now was a bill that, under his name, that just repealed, that language. And now he's sponsoring a bill with extra, because he marketed that bill by saying, we've got these extra protections in, extra regulations in. So his bill suddenly had all these regulations in and no flavored vapes. Now, when they do that, when they have, we had no idea when that bill was substituted. Now, what do we need to do to get it now? Because that just changed the bill. It wasn't passed. And so she did what we call a circle bill. Circle means if you circle it, it stays on the board. They can't until they uncircle it. It's a way of not letting your bills go off the board. So she did that because we now had to figure this out. We now had to plan. Now, we knew that probably what would happen is that he'd come back with a substitute bill. In fact, we knew actually he would come back with a substitute. He was so determined. And by the way, he was Republican. He was very libertarian, but all the Republicans were supporting what he was doing. It was the Republicans giving us the problem. So she circled that bill. It sat there on the board. And then, of course, what happened is he comes back with a substitute his bill, and now it's sitting on the board. So now we still are working to defeat his bill. But what was so important about what she did, this was the amazing thing, is that it passed. And they were all shocked. These guys are all looking at, legislators were all looking at each other. What just happened? Then they realized that they now had others that agreed with them. Nobody would admit they were getting concerned about this bill. Nobody wanted, they made commitments to him. And when that bill passed, to be on there as a substitute bill, they knew that in fact, leadership, one member of the leadership, his mind was like, and we heard him say, oh my gosh, kind of like that. Oh my gosh, this thing's gonna pass. And they all of a sudden realized what was going on. So I want to tell you about, because now we were hopeful, because up until this time, several of the people working with us said, oh, I'm not going to stay over here in the House and work. We will never. These guys are not listening to us. Nobody listens to us. We're never going to be able to defeat this bill. So we're just going to work the Senate and work on in the Senate to get the bill, defeated over there. And that wasn't a bad idea. I really was very confident that we could kill it in the Senate. But had it passed the House and then go to the Senate and kill it there, that means they'll be back next year. They would say, oh, okay, we got the House. Now in the Senate, much smaller Senate, which has 29 senators. And so I knew we had to stay over on the House side. We had to defeat it in the House because it would be back. And we don't want it back. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our team here. Raina and her adorable daughter, who is Rachel, who's peeking around the tree. That's the Capitol in the back. So Raina and Rachel were sitting over here. One wonderful, where is Rachel? Oh, she's just going to talk about her. Anyway, they started working together to talk to the legislators because they had something shocking to tell the legislators. They live right next door to an elementary school. And in the backyard of their house, they would find these empty vape cartridges because the elementary age school kids were walking by their house and throwing it over the fence. And so they would go in the back. That had a great effect on the legislators when they said, these are 4th, 5th, and 6th graders who are vaping. I mean, it was shocking to me. In the middle here is Elaine. You just heard from her today. And she's kind of bad. When she when she makes up her mind she's going to do something, she does it. So she helped Representative Kirsten Sherbrooke that I talked about get that bill going and the substitute. Work together to give her the courage. But what a team that was. Now you see this bigger picture down here, and you can recognize David, who was up earlier. And then and the other picture is the picture of the sponsor in the orange dress on next to her, and next to me is Walt Plum. David mentioned him. we work well together because we don't back down. And Walt's daughter is with us today, and we're just so grateful that she was here. And then the other man, I think this is important for you to know, the other man there is Art Brown, and he is the president of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, because he knows that if these kids start vaping, they're going to start drinking. So what happened? And you see the four substitute, HB 432, they finally had to bring it up. I think he knew he didn't have the votes, but he was trying. And when they voted on it, there were 22 legislators, all Republicans, that's bad, that voted yes, but 47 nay votes. And it changed everything. So that's just how we look. We were really, really happy about that, and I am so grateful for this great team. But please, please take this back to your states, because remember, it's very easy. It teaches them how to vape marijuana. That's just a step, and it's ruining their lungs, and it's very addictive. Thank you.